Okay. So I was asked a question. There was a question in the box from the Wednesday night meetings. How can I understand reincarnation as part of the teaching? And I thought it would be really good to discuss this, especially in relation to the last Zoom meeting we had, I think 3 weeks ago, because we talked about the law of action and results, the law of karma, and now we're moving on to the Buddha's teaching on rebirth. And these two teachings are absolutely dependent on one another. Um, it is the necessity to experience the results of our actions which propels the what we call the wheel of samsara. It's what propels rebirth, is the fundamental requirement to experience the results of our actions. Okay. The views that we hold, I know I discussed this 3 weeks ago, but I think it's worth just restating this. The views that we hold inform our intentions, our aspirations, our thoughts. The views we hold and the aspirations, intentions that we have then inform the actions that we perform in body, speech, and mind. They inform what we put effort into. They inform what we're mindful of. They inform what we concentrate on. They inform the way we live our lives, the kinds of lifestyles we have, the kinds of jobs that we have, the kinds of, just the way that we live our lives. And so the views we hold about the nature of reality are incredibly important, fundamentally important. Our worldview, what we believe happens when we die, is absolutely central to the way we live our lives. Whether we are fully consciously aware of it or not, our views do inform our actions. So therefore, as practicing meditators, people who are committed to following a spiritual training, our worldview does have to reflect the practices that we're performing. I want to make it clear that nobody has to believe something blindly, and that is not a requirement for following a spiritual path. One simply has to be open to the idea. Being open to the idea is not the same as just blindly believing it. I should also point out, and people, please feel free to put your hand up, use the icon at the bottom of the screen, thumbs up, or no, it's not thumbs up, is it? It's the hand waving. If you'd like to chip in, if you've got a question, observation, something you'd like to add to the discussion. So having an open mind is the way forward. One can actively believe, if one wishes. It's not going to do any harm at all. And for a lot of people, they're perfectly open and happy with the idea of rebirth. But the point I want to make is active disbelief will close the door to the results of your meditation practice. Not perhaps if you're just doing like concentration meditation, maybe you'd be able to do that successfully. But if you're practicing Vipassana meditation and there is an active disbelief in the idea of rebirth, it will prevent you from getting the insights that will show you what's really going on. And so active disbelief is as blind as active belief. When we believe something, we are essentially admitting that we don't know. Because if we know, then we don't need to hold a belief about it. So we believe when we don't know, and it's amazing how certain people are in their beliefs. And it's because there is an underlying uncertainty that they wish to cover over with certainty. And so people become certain in their beliefs. And as practicing Vipassana meditators, our task is to remain in the uncertainty, the full acknowledgement that we don't know, and practice from that place. And as a consequence of following the Vipassana path, you come to see the mechanism of the law of action and result so clearly, and there is a direct inference upon what we see, which informs us as to the nature of existence, both now, past existence, and future existence, as all being on the same continuum. And what we are seeing now is essentially both the past, the present, and the future. We're seeing the mechanics of how reality is actually being constructed. And it's that informs us and shows us the true nature of reality, and shows us that we're on this endless continuum, and that all birth and death occurs within this continuum. And so that is how we go from being open to the idea of rebirth. And this is a really general overview. This is how we go from a general view or openness to the idea of rebirth to actually understanding the mechanics of it. Okay, so that's my opening statement. What do people think? Is it easy for you to be able to be open to the idea of rebirth, or are there major stumbling blocks that we can talk about that would help in being able to open up? Because like I say, it's just opening up is the only issue. It's not, you don't have to actively believe or disbelieve. It's just being open. Mandy, hello.
Hi, good evening, Paul. Yeah, thank you for your explanation again and again and again. It's very helpful to have this repeated to me. And I was thinking about just a totally different experience I had this week with my daughters who went out. Um, they went out and I was in bed asleep and I heard some noise and I thought, okay, one of my daughters is coming home. And then my second daughter came home later at night and I woke up a little bit and I was a bit sleepy and I made a story in my mind like, oh, she must be drunk because I hear her stumbling uh, on the stairs to her bed. And in my mind, I made up this idea. I thought she was bringing a bucket with her. So I thought, oh, she must be very drunk and very sick. And well, I had this story in my mind and I got upset and I couldn't sleep and I worried about it all night, kind of half asleep. And in the morning, I so I went to her almost convinced and I said, "Whoa, well, you had a night." And she said, What? How? What do you mean?" And I explained to her the idea that I made up. And she said, "No, no, I was totally not drunk. I cycled back home and nothing happened." And I had a laugh at my own mind, who really took me there, so convinced with making up this story and with the sounds I heard. And I thought, okay, if I can make this up, or if this can be different than I believe, then everything can be different. I kind of see the similarity here. So
Yeah.
how can I be convinced about anything? I,
No.
well, that was my
Yeah.
idea.
No. It's a it works as an analogy. It's like the active disbelief in the idea that there's more than one life is not based on anything substantial, anything more substantial than the idea or the belief that there are many lives. The idea that your daughter came home drunk had just these whiffs of like different moments of like a little bit of this, a little bit of that was put together, constructed by the mind into a belief about what was unfolding, but there was no absolute proof. until there was direct communication with your daughter, and the idea was proven to be incorrect. And what we want is the direct experience of the true nature of reality as it's unfolding, which shows us what's what. So it's not a question of, so the difficulty with the law of action and result is, or anything to do with this teaching actually, is it's not provable scientifically. So the scientist should find fault with what I'm saying because I cannot objectively prove it. And the religious are have their nose equally put out of joint by the fact that I'm not accepting their beliefs as truth. Yeah. So it can only come from direct personal experience. You will never be able to prove it to anyone, but you don't have to. There is no requirement to prove it to anyone. But you're absolutely right, Mandy. It's seeing that the way we interpret reality is simply an interpretation. And some interpretations are more workable than others. And so if we choose to interpret the idea of, we interpret reality according to the idea of rebirth, that our actions have results, how does that change the way we live in the world? How does that change our intentions, our aspirations? How does it change our activity based on those? Alex, hello.
Hi, Paul. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. This is very inspiring.
Oh, good.
I I think there was definitely a point in my practice, probably 8 or 10 years ago, where thinking about these things and meditating on them made it seem fundamentally important to become aware of the Eightfold Path. And I think that just felt like part of getting to know my own mind and the the wave of causality of every action, every thought, sensation, everything. Looking at dependent origination and how the ego and the self is born with every single one of those things.
The idea of.
The idea, exactly, yeah, yeah, and for me, like seeing that kind of micro rebirth in the sense of
Yes.
when I have a thought and I'm like, that's my thought, like, or there's heat in my hand, that's my feeling of heat. Like to see, okay, well, there's the ego manifesting and being born in that cyclical sense.
Yeah, there's rebirth in every moment.
Yeah, then it didn't then before any kind of larger insights around what we're talking about, physical rebirth, that seemed to kind of follow, and it was then fundamentally important to sort of think about the Eightfold Path and how you can live so you can sort of start to create reality in a way, that feels responsible.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a reiteration process going on. So there's the first sort of iteration of practicing meditation, perhaps sort of glancing at the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, and then through the experience of meditation, then perhaps there's reflection, and then revisiting the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path, and realizing, oh, wait a minute, if this is all about ignorance creating craving, and it's the craving, the thirst for life that propels rebirth, then I really need to go back to meditation and really start looking at the true nature of what's actually unfolding, because it's fundamental to the Buddha's teaching that life is unsatisfactory, that people are forever trying to find solutions for things, not realizing that it's whack-a-mole. It's just pushing the problem down the line again and again and again. Every attempt to resolve is new action, which requires new results, and so you can't get off the wheel like that. And there is no real, true, genuine peace in forever chasing results, because they are transient. So the very fabric of existence is transient. Whatever you make out of it equally be transient. And so it's this never-ending process of like ultimate dissatisfaction. And so the more we meditate, the more we reflect, the more we come back to the Noble Eightfold Path, the more we come back to the Noble Eightfold Path, It affects the way we choose to live our life. And, it propels us down the spiritual path, the meditative path, the path of direct observation. So, yeah, that's a really, really good point, Alex. Was there anything else about that you wanted to mention?
No, I mean only what you said. Just it was, well. Thanks for sharing that. It just really seemed to chime with some things. But yeah, thank you.
Good.
Thanks for sharing.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Alex. Leslie, hello.
Hello there. It's what you were saying before. By being mindful and noting what is occurring, it's only in that moment you have the opportunity to realise what the consequences of what your actions are going to be, which gives you the opportunity to adjust your response, which can actually start turning the momentum in a different direction.
Can I put it slightly differently? I mean, I agree. It is witnessing, it is becoming aware of the results of your past actions.
Right.
So it's the wisdom, both the active and the passive phase. The passive phase of experiencing the results of your actions as the sensory contacts, the feelings, and the tendencies to act. So we become aware of those, and then there's the active phases. Well, do I act upon those impulses or do I restrain them? And over time, you learn which are the ones you would rather restrain because you know from experience what happens, and you act on the ones that you know from your own experience lead to greater happiness.
Yeah.
So you gradually become the master of the hindrances. Yeah. But yes, we can only do this work in the moment. Yes, there's reflection. Of course, there's wise reflection on experience. So we do some thinking, and we also obviously do some study, but primarily it is in that dynamic process of mindful noting that the wisdom comes.
Yeah. Lovely. Thank you.
For those that do struggle with the notion of rebirth, although is it any crazier to be born more than once than it is to be born at all? I don't know, but you can think of it like this way. It was like, what do you lose through upholding or being open to the idea of rebirth? So say, like none of us want to be duped. I get it. Nobody wants to be duped. But what happens if you choose to act in accordance with the view that there's more than one life? Well, then the way you behave has a fundamental bearing on what your future self, in inverted commas, your future self will experience. And so there is a responsibility there. Okay. And, your actions are going to have a direct bearing on the kind of future in this life and beyond. Okay. So there's a responsibility that you have to be willing to take. But as a consequence of taking that responsibility and using the Buddha's teaching to determine which are the actions that produce the results I like, you become the captain of your ship. Now, if it is the case that as a result of upholding that view and acting in accordance with that view, you discover at the end of this life that literally, no, that's it. It's just all gone. No, it was all a big mistake. There wasn't no such thing as rebirth, and that's the end of everything. Well, okay. At least you'd lived a good life and you've left a good legacy for those left behind. And okay, so it turned out it was annihilation. All right, okay, so you're annihilated, so that's done. If, however, you discover that no, indeed, there is rebirth and that life does go on, you then experience the results of the actions you performed in your past life, which is going to be pretty good, isn't it? Given that you've decided to act in accordance with keeping precepts, developing selfless actions of compassion for the sake of others, developing loving kindness meditation, developing compassion meditation, developing insights, you're going to get a good rebirth. If somebody chooses to uphold the view that there is only one life, this life, and that everything is accidental, your successes, your failures, it's all just, it's all just down to chance, and you live in accordance with that, when time comes to die, either you'll be annihilated and there won't be anything further to really concern yourself with, or if that this continuum does indeed continue and there is rebirth, then that might not be quite so good, but okay, you just have to experience the results of your actions. So I think there is great solace in, at least given that both, neither, we don't know, and therefore it could be either or. Which one are you more likely to take? Which view are you more likely to take as practicing meditators? I'll leave that with you. I hope that made sense. Didn't quite put that as clearly as I would like to. Edward, you'd like to make a contribution.
Thank you. Yes. Thinking through, it would be beneficial to have more time in this body to mindfully note and, in this existence, in this life. Mm-hmm. So we want to have the ship to keep on going for as long as possible, so to speak. And we want that ship to be in the best condition that it can be. Mm-hmm. So I suppose my question is, at what point is there a choice to take medication, say, to help the physical body look after itself? Mm-hmm. And the cognition, if people need particular medications to help their mind be less stormy, for want of a better word, then is there not a danger of that sort of grasping nature of, because there's a need to try and get the most out of this life that we can in order to benefit subsequent lives? Mm-hmm. Can we not fall into the trap of taking medication after medication after medication to sort of almost in futile, because the end may already be determined, to keep us going? So I haven't really said it very clearly, but as an example, if we are looking at anxiety, okay, right, which is a major hindrance to our cognition, our clear cognition, should we take anti-anxiety medication to help? Should we be taking statins to reduce, should we be dependent on other people's perception of our physical and mental reality?
Good point.
That's what I'm trying to get at, ultimately, is how dependent should we be on other people's perception?
Yes, I understand that. I beat the statin thing. I managed to get my cholesterol down. And in terms of like things like anxiety, well, the whole purpose of the mindful noting is to develop the wisdom into our suffering. So if we're using medication in order to numb ourselves to, say, something like anxiety, because we're not getting rid of the anxiety, we're just numbing ourselves to the effects of this particular kind of mental processing, then we're unable to gain the wisdom into anxiety that allows us to become the master of it. And so we do have a game to play with a society that essentially, we live in a society that is only concerned in this lifetime and considers mind or consciousness to be the outcome of material processes and all of that implies, in terms of, oh, you're feeling a little unhappy, here is some medication that you can take. Feeling a bit depressed, feeling a bit anxious, here is some medication you can take. And so we are, as it were, we're having to balance the opportunities for having, because I understand, like in the short term, I understand antidepressants and so forth can be extraordinarily helpful and effective in helping somebody release themselves from whatever that they're clinging so tightly to that's causing them such distress. And and who am I to say that shouldn't be the case? But for practicing meditators intent on realizing the cessation of suffering through mindful noting, then you do have a careful balancing act that you have to perform. And whatever we can do to lessen dependency on those outside supports, the better, without leaving us in a worse place for doing so. So, like, it might be that somebody needs to undertake a gradual withdrawal from something like antidepressants. So something like that has to be done in using the support of the medical community. I personally wouldn't go near it. I'd always refer somebody to a medical practitioner in order to get the right information and the right help for a gradual withdrawal from the use of antidepressants if they're intent on following a meditative path. Because at some point you have to look at the thing that you didn't want to look at. You have to be willing to look at those painful feelings and the unwanted thoughts and perceptions and so forth. But it has to be done in a gradual way, because otherwise, if somebody comes off everything, then they're in a worse place than when they started.
Yeah.
Does that help, Edward? So
no, it does.
It can't be like a by numbers thing. It's got to be an individual.
Yeah. But no, you're right. It's just it's trying to be aware of how much of the sailing of the ship you can do yourself, to be captain of, and how many kind of crew members you need to help you temporarily.
Yes, and I think that if someone persists with mindful noting, then gradually those supports will become unnecessary, because the more you see how it is that it is in our responses to the unsatisfactory nature of life, painful feelings, unwanted memories, and all these kinds of things. We start to master anxiety. We start to master the feelings and the sensations and the thoughts around it. We understand what it is. We see again and again and again that it's transient, and that it doesn't define me. I don't have to, I don't have to solve this. I just have to mindfully observe it and see its transient nature. The more somebody becomes wise in that way, the less dependence there is on external supports. And so gradually somebody can wean themselves off to the point where we become such spiritual masters that we simply do not require any such intervention at all. Thank you. Yeah. So I'd say to anyone, I'd just say, just persevere. Don't do anything drastic. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep meditating, but have this openness to this idea that gradually I can start to come off these medical supports, but only when I'm ready. We got a retreat on this week, and again, to all of them, I said the same thing. Like, every path is unique. Every individual, each one of you, your path is unique. No two paths are exactly the same. Yes, the insight knowledges themselves arise in a particular order, and it's the same for everyone. That's like, we've all got faces, we've all got two eyes, a nose, and a mouth, and two ears. However, not one of us looks the same. So we all go at different speeds. We all have unique sets of obstacles to deal with and overcome. And so it's there's no comparison to be made. It's just you gradually becoming wise as to how life is really being constructed and what's really going on. And gradually, as you do, then, like I say, you gradually become the master of what's going on rather than its slave. So I'd just say, hang on in there, keep going, and gradually things work themselves out.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Edward.
Thank you.
What other aspects of rebirth can we talk about that would be useful? Does anyone else have any other questions around the rebirth? Do you know why we refer to it as rebirth rather than reincarnation? Anyone got an idea why we refer to it as rebirth rather than reincarnation? Leslie?
Reincarnation implies the same thing as coming back.
Exactly. And rebirth?
And rebirth is just a continuation on the life stream, if you like, a resurfacing again.
Well, not a resurf. No, yeah, not quite a resurfacing. Literally, it's just the aggregates at the ultimate level. It's just the aggregates arising and passing away, just as they're doing now, coming together to create this moment through conditions. Each aggregate conditioning the arising of the other aggregates. This matrix of conditioned and conditioning phenomena.
Yeah,
it's just that process, a continuation of that stream, if you like. And conventionally, what we're doing is we're just attaching a perception, an unchanging perception, a label, me, you, Leslie, Paul, Hilda, Mark, and we just get confused. We lose a sense that it's a stream of events arising and passing away, and we categorize and we delineate the idea of me and the sense of separation. And in that moment, we are then creating birth, if you like.
Yep.
And the problem is, whatever is born ceases. Whatever arises has the nature to pass away again.
Lovely.
So yeah. So in reality, there is nothing to be reborn. So rebirth is happening in the moment by moment level. There is nothing. So often people have this idea of rebirth. It's like pearls on a necklace. So each pearl being a different life, and there is this sense of the string on which the pearls are hung as running all the way through it. So it's the same string running all the way through all these different lives. But in reality, there are just the arising and passing away of things. There is nothing that moves from one life to another.
There's just a string.
Just a stream. There's no string. There is nothing that persists through time. Well, time itself is, contained within the flow. And this is the beautiful thing. As you get deeper into the mindful noting of the arising and passing away of phenomena, and you get a really good sense of the aggregates, and you're noting, it does become it is an inference because you can't see the past, you can't see the future, but there is this clear recognition that it has to be the case for existence to occur at all. It has to be the case that things arise and pass away without passing through time. That life cannot happen in any other way. And there's the complete seeing that what's true of this moment must be true of the last moment, must be true of the next moment. So you experience the next moment. Again, you see it's the rising and passing away of phenomena. Existence can only work in, so you keep on seeing it again and again and again. So you can infer that all past moments and all future moments are similar, that they are the constructed result of the arising and passing away of phenomena due to conditions, which is a mouthful to say, and it's actually a lot simpler just to observe. But that's what opens it all up. The recognition that, oh my goodness, it is literally being constructed in real time. And there is nothing that persists through time. There's nothing in all of that which is unchanging. Some unchanging entity, some unchanging soul or self that remains the same. Phenomenal. When you see it, you can't unsee it. Okay. Well, look, we have time if there's any other topics that people would like to discuss. There was another question here in the same set, which was, do you think that people on a subconscious or unconscious level think they will live forever? Which is interesting. Because I think on some level, everyone knows that, all right, so people fall into the trap, quite understandably, of thinking in terms of an unchanging soul. But I think on some level, everyone knows the way it really is. Remember, ignorance, mental blindness, a blindness to the way things are, is actually something that we do. To turn away from something, to ignore it, you must first have seen it. So, I'm not quite sure that was the context in which the question was asked, but generally, people don't like to think about their own mortality. It's scary, obviously. And so I think people do tend to, we will think it's morbid, and we will tend to get stuck into life so that we don't have to consider such things. But the more you meditate, the more you practice mindful noting, the arising and passing away of things just becomes so undeniable. You do have to kind of like consider it consciously. But I think the more you see that things arise and pass away due to conditions, impersonal conditions, the more you see that life happens anyway, that nothing gets annihilated, that everything carries on, and you start to see how magical and mysterious and awesome life actually is. You start to fall in love with life, genuinely, rather than being scared of it, afraid of it. You fall in love with it. Oh, Tim was there and then he went. Has anyone else got a question or observation? John, hello.
Hi, Paul. Hi.
Hi.
I don't know if this is silly, but I'm getting a bit confused because we've been talking about I understand that things arise and pass away while we're meditating, while we're here in the physical. I can get that. I can accept that. But when we physically die, then what happens? And kind of who decides what decides? If I've had a terrible life, I'm not going to. I've learned that I'm not going to come back as a human being. I might come back as an animal or something like that. Or
Oh,
if I live a
unlikely.
great life, then if I live a great life, then I might come back as a spirit person, as a Buddha
Well,
or something. If I become
work to do there,
enlightened,
but I
then
know what you mean.
that's a long way away. But but who decides that? Just my actions?
Okay. If you throw an egg up in the air, who decides whether it falls to the ground or not?
Gravity.
Okay, who's responsible for gravity?
Nobody physically, nobody mentally decides. No.
It's just a law, isn't it?
Hmm.
It's just a law of life, naturally
Okay.
occurring law. So when we act, our actions have results. So for instance, if I practice loving kindness towards somebody, and then later that day I see them on the street, who decides whether I'm happy to see them or not?
Me.
You.
Yeah.
But if I
Yeah.
practiced hatred towards them
Sorry, I missed
instead,
your point.
if
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
practice hatred towards them instead, who decides when I see them that I don't want to
yeah,
talk to them?
yeah. They're not gonna want to talk to me, are they?
Probably not.
Probably not.
The
No.
reason is that actions have results. The way we
Yeah,
experience
definitely.
the results of actions is in the kinds of feelings and perceptions that arise because of the sense contacts that we experience. So if I practice loving kindness towards somebody and then I see them, the natural result is it's completely impersonal. The natural result is the perception is wanted. I like, I'm glad I see them and I get pleasant feelings. If I
Yep.
practice hatred towards them, when I see them, it is an unwanted perception. I don't want to talk to them. I experience painful feelings.
Okay.
That's just a natural, so it's just
Excellent.
an impersonal, natural law of life that
Hmm.
the more you practice mindfully noticing, the more you recognize the reality of that.
Okay.
And so in a sense, you can say the only person choosing your future is you by the actions that you perform.
The actions.
Okay.
But you get into a problem then because in subsequent lives, you don't know why necessarily. You don't necessarily know why you got the set of circumstances that
Yeah.
you have, and so there's a tendency then to say you're blaming me for but it's not. It's just you threw the egg up in the air and the egg landed.
I get you. Okay. Okay.
Does that help?
So it's just that. So after death, and our rebirth after death is still just decided on our actions now.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
actions now. We've also, if by the same token, we've got lots of past lives
Yeah.
as well.
Okay.
So but all we can do is deal with the hand that we're given now,
Yeah.
and to work at becoming wise as to which are the actions that bring happiness and which are the actions that bring unhappiness, and choose which actions we're going to perform.
Yeah. Yeah.
As
Okay.
well as deepening our wisdom so that we can get off this whole rebirth
Yeah. Treadmill.
theme completely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I need to do a lot more meditating on that, but
I think
come. It'll come.
Yeah, I think it's a very good point, actually, John. No matter what we talk about, no matter how confusing or unconfusing the conversation is, these things are resolved through mindful noting, through actual practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Tim, hello.
Hi there, Paul.
Hi.
Sorry, we had to get the charger, so we missed a
Oh,
bit. Apologies if someone's already kind of brought up this question, but
no, I'm sure it's good.
I saw an amazing movie about someone with severe Tourette's, but you may have seen it. It's called I Swear. And
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I think I've seen stuff about it. Yeah.
right, and it really got me thinking because it's such a cruel, crazy condition. And and it was difficult for me to perceive what one could have learned, what through having such a crippling condition and such an unusual, I mean, you couldn't make it up. What kind of karma leads to that? Because it doesn't seem to have led to anything you could learn. I don't know. Is it?
Oh, but we don't know. We can't say for that person what he's learning.
Yeah.
And I could not possibly comment on what kind of actions produce those kinds of results. I mean, I'm not an historical Buddha. I'm just a guy. So this is where it comes back to, like, how do we know? How could we possibly know? You know, it's like, but we can know about what's happening in our own mind-body continuum. We you know, like, what are the things you've learned about? I mean, I'm not asking you to tell us. I'm just saying, you know, it's like, what kinds of, you know, I look at my life and the kinds of lessons that I was given and how it prompted reflection that caused me to seek a solution to the problem of suffering through following the Buddha's teaching. It's like, my suffering was my guru. I wouldn't expect somebody to look at me in my life. I'm sure people would who've known me for my life would look at the life I've had and go, "Paul, you weren't suffering. What's the matter with you? Get a grip." But for me, inside my life, that I was suffering, and it caused this reflection that caused me to seek the cessation of suffering. So what it is about somebody with a particular condition like Tourette's, that we are, I mean, essentially with all these things, we create this delineation. We call it Tourette's, we make it into a thing. But that person is going through what they're going through. They're learning their lessons in whatever way. Who are we to you know?
Yeah.
I don't have an answer for you, Tim. I really don't.
I wonder perhaps if a good reason for such strange circumstances, which are so challenging for the people around them, that perhaps this is their gift to teach other people, essentially, because it's like the other people who find themselves having to deal with this in such a bizarre and extreme set of circumstances to deal with. So
I think it can be tremendously helpful if somebody else has had a similar experience. You know, it can help tremendously for that person to know they're not alone, to know that other people have experienced the same things, and to be able to impart a little bit of wisdom about how to deal with it. And, you know, that's good karma to meet somebody like that, isn't it? You know, because we're all mixed. Think about all the actions we're performing in one lifetime. It's that we're all such a mixture of dark and bright, you know, happy, sad. So, you know,
would it? Sorry, Paul. Would it also be the case that if you performed actions which would lead to rebirth in a very heavenly realm, then presumably you'll find yourself perhaps less motivated.
Absolutely.
To develop wisdom.
Oh yes. Why would you? Why would you?
Right.
You're just sitting on your cloud, doing your heavenly things. There would be no impetus. It's suffering is the impetus, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like if you've gone too far the other way, you're in too bad a situation, too painful a situation to be able to even reflect and contemplate. So this is why in certainly in Tibetan Buddhism, I know they regard the human realm as the highest possible rebirth, because it is a perfect mix of happy, sad, painful, pleasant experiences with these minds which are capable of the necessary reflection, which prompts then proper spiritual inquiry. Sorrow is a guru. It's not happiness causes nobody to reflect wisely. It's you got to be up against it in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Said cheerily.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
I mean, isn't that the case? Isn't that what drives us to be here this evening?
Yeah, most certainly.
Yeah. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Rakesh, hello.
Hi, Paul. I
Hi.
really can't resist asking this question. I'm not quite sure how to phrase it, but it's on the question of rebirth. And the question is, what happens to an enlightened person when they die? Because I've heard the Buddha obviously said that an enlightened person, when they pass on, it can be said that you can't say that they exist and you can't say that they don't exist.
Yeah, but that's true now. It's not true when they die. It's true now.
Okay.
Because we've delineated this idea of a person, separated them out, called them enlightened, and then wonders what happened to them when they die. But the enlightened, so no matter how it appears externally, somebody externally looking at the person that they consider to be enlightened, for that person, if they have truly understood, they know beyond any shadow of a doubt there never was somebody to die. There is just the arising and passing away of the aggregates. And so it's a question, an understandable question, completely understandable why somebody should ask it, but it's coming from a wrong premise, a false first premise. It is the assumption that there is somebody there to die and then asking what happens to them. Now, to all intents and purposes, anyone who does realize knows that they haven't the faintest idea what comes next after the breakup of this body, but they know they know beyond any question whatsoever that it's going to be awesome. And they know beyond any shadow of a doubt that there is no requirement through craving to be reborn physically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
They're off the wheel of rebirth the moment they realized nibbana.
Mm-hmm.
So in a sense, the Buddha talked about nibbana with the aggregates remaining and nibbana without the aggregates to establish this different, it's like nibbana is nibbana. Nibbana is the one thing which does not arise and pass away. So
and it's imminent and it's permanent.
Yeah. So the only thing I can say, it's like from here on in, it's just play. I think it's a fair way of putting it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rakesh. Thanks for asking the question, because I think it is a really important question to ask, even though the answer is it's a wrong question, but it is an important question to ask. Mandy. Hiya.
Yeah, Paul, can you help more? Can you explain a little bit more, maybe? No, that's not my question. Actually, what I'm experiencing is it's quite helpful for me to see that my actions are not only my actions. My actions depend on all the aggregates around me, myself, but also my surrounding humanity, the whole universe almost. So it's for me, it's not like what I'm doing has consequences for myself and it's linear. It's like it's like that karma. It's like it's just a big holistic thing. I might does that so my
you experience the results of your actions. Yeah, obviously it's a big melting pot, lots of different people, all of whom are acting in what they consider to be their very own best interests. How it's possible, given everything that we're witnessing and looking at, geopolitically, how people think that's in their own best interest is frankly beyond beyond me. But nonetheless, that's what people are. And yes, we are affected by the choices and the actions of others, but still, we experience the results of our actions. So if we want to think of it in terms of choice, we chose to be reborn in the human realm to find out what it's like being a human being. And Mandy, I have to tell you, it's like this. It really is. Like other people behaving ways that just defy belief, and we have to experience the reverberations of all of that. Absolutely. But it's about how you respond.
Mm-hmm.
And if we respond with craving, if we respond with resistance, if we respond with, it shouldn't be like this, then we are creating clinging attachment. Then what comes subsequently will be even more painful. If we respond with wisdom to recognize that events are arising, passing away outside of our control, and we're learning to respond with non-attachment, with non-craving, then we get a different set of experiences as a result of that. So this is the learning ground. This is the very learning ground, and having all our sense of certainty and security snatched away from underneath us, in terms of spiritual practitioners, this is the very best set of conditions you could possibly hope for. I mean, what a perfect opportunity to practice the way when life is so uncertain for all of us. When we don't know whether there's going to be fuel in the pump next time we go to fill up the car. We don't know whether there's going to be food in the supermarket next time we go to fill up our basket. What perfect opportunity for us as spiritual practitioners to follow the way and to observe our responses, to observe the fears, the worries, the anxieties. What a perfect opportunity. This is the human realm, and this is exactly how it is. It's not lying to us. Why do we want to keep coming back? So what's life telling us as practitioners? Isn't it telling us, I think you ought to get on with your mindful noting. I think you ought to prioritize mindful noting, because this is going to be a roller coaster for all of us. Mandy, I'm not sure. Has that helped? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I find it difficult to explain what I mean. I will try that next time with you.
I thought I'd understood, but maybe I hadn't. Did you mean something else?
I'll have to sort that out for myself, I guess. First,
Yeah.
before to discuss this.
Yeah, or you can, you can arrange a Zoom.
No, it's really it is recognizable what you say. That I do definitely. I know that I have my actions have results. But what I wanted to say, I think, is that it's all connected. How things will work out, maybe, or the influences that are here on me or on you, and that's all or maybe my like my parents and foreparents and generations before me.
Yes, yeah. There's that too. So we have a karmic inheritance.
Yes, exactly.
So we have our own past actions that produce the results that we experience. We have that stream. We also have a genetic inheritance.
That's the one I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. But we, in inverted commas, we chose that genetic inheritance as part of our learning in this lifetime. Does that? So it still falls within.
How do you choose that? What do you mean?
By the actions you've performed in the past. Why is it you're experiencing what you're experiencing now? Because of the choices that you've made. It's just part of it's the same thing. But what I'm saying is that due to our past actions, we were reborn into this human experience, this human experience has a genetic component to it that we temporarily inherit. We come down this particular lifetime, and then we move away from this lifetime. That genetic component to our behavior and stuff going on, that all gets left behind.
Thank you. Really helpful.
Does that help?
No. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Thanks.
It is complex, and the more you go into the mechanics of action and result, the more complex it becomes. We just need sufficient insight into the process to show us that there is no self in any component part of that process, that it is all arising and passing away due to conditions. That's what releases us. That's what brings about this wonderful non-attachment to things. So I just reiterate as a final thought, because we need to stop, but as a final thought, no matter what it is that we intellectually think about and consider and reflect upon, see it in context, put it down, and just have the faith and the confidence in just this process of mindful noting, and continue to mindfully note with an open mind. And all these things gradually come into focus. And there is this, no matter whether we're skilled or unskilled in being able to communicate, that's entirely secondary. There is this intuitive, direct clarity that arises where one understands how this is actually working. And that's what liberates, not the intellectual work, the direct apprehension and comprehension. That's what liberates. And that comes from mindful noting. And that's why I say mindful noting is the most powerful spiritual practice anyone can do. There. Boom. So we've been talking for an hour, so I've had enough. Well, some of us have been talking, one of us mostly. So I think we'll leave it there for this evening. Lovely to see you all. We will be back in 2 weeks. And if you have any questions, please, you can email them. If you don't want to just say them here, you can email them and we can go through them on a Zoom meeting. Otherwise, if you're local, I'll see you on Wednesday for a meeting on Wednesday. Otherwise, I'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks so much.
See you.
Thank you. Bye.